Hey guys, Dov here, and today I'm back with some more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. Today we've got a classic metal duel between the two OG Lore of Metal legendary lords, Sarthrel the Everwatcher and Balthazar Gelt, of course. Empire versus Warriors of Chaos. Got two Shaggoths here supporting Big Bird, so a lot of monster power. Mirror Guard for a bit of a backbone. Some Marauders for infantry. A couple of horsemen. Looks like 3 Javelin horsemen and 1 throwing axe. Along with some Warhounds. For the Empire, we've got a very mobile-focused build with Demogryph Knights, Royal Altdorf Griffites, even Empire Knights. We've also got Outriders with grenade launchers, 3 War Wagons, Warrior Priest for the Demis, another Cav. We've also got a Witch Hunter here, some Spearmen, Balthazar up in the air, of course, and some Great Swords hidden in there in the woods. Right off the bat, these Hounds are going to get rezacked by the Empire Knights as they try and get on those Outriders. Skirmish fights also getting underway, definitely going in the War Wagon's favor, as the armor differential does matter quite a bit here. You can see them picking away at the Marauders' unit models very nicely. The Shaggoths are going to come forward now. They do need to be careful. They'll take quite a bit of consistent DPS from those War Wagons given enough time, so it'll be interesting. Both players kind of forming on each hill and then advancing. Let's check out the spell loadouts as they do. Sarthrel coming in with just Searing Doom and Final Transmutation. Balthazar Gelt, on the other hand, has Plague of Rust and Final Transmutation, so we'll see who comes out on top there. As it is right now, though, some beautiful skirmishing from these War Wagons, although they are technically slow enough that they're going to get caught by the Shaggoths here, start to take some big hits. They're doing some nice return damage, but will they actually drop a unit model here? Royal Altdorf Griffites and the Empire Knights countercharging here, trying to get them in a big pitch engagement. Sarthrel, you can see now charging as well, and all the Marauder Horsemen getting into an overwatch position here. Quite a few of them. The Hounds also coming in for a rear charge, so this is a really nice engagement for the Warriors of Chaos. The Empire is going to escalate, throw in a bunch of buffs from the Warrior Priest here. Looks like we're probably going to have a Final Transmutation from Big Bird. It probably will go very well in Warriors of Chaos' favor here. You can see a ton of damage on the Royal Altdorf Griffites. That Shield of Faith does help, and the Hammer of Sigmar means they have torn apart these Shaggoths in the short time they've been in melee here, so they've probably honestly paid for themselves despite the fact that they're getting shredded very, very quickly. They've done a ton of damage to shoot 2 Shaggoths. Also allowed these War Wagons to pour in quite a bit of Overwatch fire there, but yeah, they are done for. They're going to get absolutely shattered here. A Warrior Priest will get terrified. We'll see if he comes back. Meanwhile, the grenade launchers working on the Chaos Marauders there. Searing Doom being thrown on the War Wagons. Really won't do too much. Probably would have been better to throw those at the actual Outriders, but the Outriders are going to get kind of caught here by the Hounds and by the Marauders. That's not great for them. They're going to need to pull away there. You can see the Warrior Priest also getting routed. But likewise, they've traded for one of the Dragon Ogres, and the other one's also very low. So good stuff on both sides. This Dragon Ogre taking all of the Overwatch fire from the War Wagons. And the Witch Hunter also popping a cap there. Very nicely done. Looks like the two Chaos Heroes are not too happy about their heresy being called out, so they're going to come in here and just munch the Witch Hunter. Now, I would imagine this is kind of a Witch Hunter's worst nightmare, is to actually fight a greater demon in melee combat. Like, they do everything they can to try and avoid that, right? To not get to demonhood in the first place, but anyway. Another Searing Doom there being thrown at the War Wagons, and actually does some pretty okay damage. Maybe I was, speaking falsely about that cast earlier, but the Javelin's also able to tear apart one of the War Wagon's unit models there, so great plays on both sides. Both players just scrapping back and forth here. The Mirror Guard were kind of bogged around the Witch Hunter there, doing a lot of damage to him, but have since peeled out, and he is going to be able to continue firing there. Marauder Horsemen pushing up and through. A lot of the Empire infantry is being dealt with, but beautiful positioning from these grenade launchers here to be able to fire into the rear of this blob, do a ton of damage to those light Marauders. Likewise, the Marauder Horsemen here not advancing. They are going to get probably screened out by those Spearmen. Not be able to get up and get at the War Wagons, so yep, they need to pull up and around just like this. Allow those Marauders to get on the Spearmen in melee. Here, looks like the Witch Hunter finally meeting his match. Although they are within range of the war wagons, all three of these Chaos monsters are, so they are going to be taking some Overwatch fire all the meantime, but this is Witch Hunter's last day here. He's definitely going to go home with a giant, axe wound in his head, basically. But here comes the Warrior Priest, sweeping up and around, trying to get supporting on those Outriders there. It looks like they are able to just about win that combat anyway, regardless. Balthazar hanging around in the air, watching the Witch Hunter get torn to absolute shreds, which I'm sure he enjoys quite a bit. I don't know why, but a couple of War Wagons here are able to keep chipping away, and you can see that the Greatswords are actually trading very nicely. 32 kills so far. And the Chaos Warriors, the Mirror Guard here, kind of having to force path their way through to get at the War Wagons, but they are doing that. And likewise, this massive force of Marauder Horsemen now coming up and around the flank. They can not only fight the War Wagons in the melee, but also have good enough AP values on their missiles to deal with them pretty consistently. So things are looking dicey for the Empire. They still do have the Sigmar Sons, though, being held in reserve until the late game here. Going to be very nice for holding back this tide of Marauders. Likewise, the Warrior Priest returning to the fight, helping to support the Spearmen win that fight. The fact that the hero support for the Empire is still alive is very important. But here come the three monsters for the Warriors of Chaos, going to be pushing up the hill as the War Wagons make their stand. The War Wagons are just about out of ammunition, so they can't keep firing for too long, but they will keep up the DPS, at least for a while. But let's get in close. It's pitched melee engagement here. Going to be another Searing Doom dropped as well. The Warrior Priest, in response, drops his buffs, and the buffs, in particular on the Great Swords here, the Grand Hammer of Sigmar, are going to absolutely shred the Mirror Guard here. That's a really, really bad situation for them. So very nicely done with the buffs there on the Great Swords. Let's see, what's their kill total at? 109 kills and just about got an XP chevron in a very short amount of time there. So nicely done, sort of holding those Great Swords and the Sigmar Sons in reserve until the late game, now being used to kind of hold the tide here. The War Wagon still operational for the most part. One unit has been shut down, but the other 3 unit models of both units online, at least for the time being. And one gets immediately dismantled there by the monsters as they kind of force their way through. Not really a lot to be able to stop them at this point. There's no real mass for the Empire. Best the War Wagons can do is just try and pull away and keep shooting. Balthazar, though, is not a pushover in combat. 70 charge bonus with 53 melee defense from that, 43 rather, from that evasion. Plus having a little bit of extra weapon damage when he's near the Warrior Priest from the Banner of Eternal Flame will be quite nice. Yeah, we'll see. It's anyone's game at this point, slightly in favor of the Empire, but Big Bird is going to be an absolute menace to deal with. Looks like he comes in here to finish off the Warrior Priest, gets a terror route on him. It's going to be able to finish him off here, just straight up bashing him off his horse, actually tearing him in half. Wow, that's kind of impressive, all things considered. And there's a lot of Marauder Horsemen, which is hard to say for some reason. Yeah, we've also got these 2 Shaggoths very low on HP, so can the War Wagons kite out, use the last of their ammunition, and finish off these Shaggoths? That is the question here. 600 HP there, 719 HP there. The last of the ammunition has been used here, and it is enough to rout this one Shaggoth back with just 500 HP, although both of these War Wagons now going to be caught and executed. So we'll go ahead and fast forward a little bit as both forces kind of reform here. Balthazar chasing away some of the Marauders in the late game. Great Swords, Sigmar Sons, Spearmen forming a position up on the high ground here, and the last of the War Wagons being finished off by the foul spawns of Chaos. So here we go. Big Bird now climbing up the hill with his forces to engage in the final battle. Got a handful of Mirror Guard there and Chaos Marauders. We'll see. Shaggoth and Big Bird going to go straight in after the Great Swords, trying to use their armor-piercing damage. And the Marauder Horsemen, rather than getting a rear charge here, which I think would be better, you could potentially trigger a terror route right away on those Great Swords. Instead, they're going to charge into the unbreakable Sigmar Sons. If they had instead charged in here and got like the Spearmen and these Great Swords, they could have potentially procced a terror route there, but as it is, the Dragonor Shaggoth does get routed off, leaving just Big Bird on the field there. The Marauder Horsemen are still in a position to try and support, but we'll see. Big Bird's terror could come in very handy here. The fact that Balthazar can now chase this Shaggoth off, yeah, and probably kill it, to be honest, will be very nice for him. We'll keep fast-forwarding somewhat into the late game here. You can see this is what I'm talking about. The rear charges and the terrors, actually they chose again not to rear charge there, those Great Swords, although a few models did make contact to still proc the terror route on the spearmen and the great swords there, but there is an issue. Can you spot it for the Warriors of Chaos? Well, number one, a beautiful final transmutation in the late game. Overcast is going to finish off the last of the Marauder Horsemen here. That will trigger critical army losses. The fact that, of course, Sarthrel's unbreakable means he'll keep fighting, but that also did a decent amount of damage to him. And look at this. Balthazar is still healthy enough. He's got decent stats. He's got some Sigmar's sons here supporting. That's right, Balthazar, you got this. You can finish him. I believe in you. The true metal mage is Balthazar. Throwing a final Plague of Rust there to give 0 armor to Sarthrel, so he takes the full brunt of all damage thrown his way. You can see Balthazar getting chicks and chunks of damage using his gilded sword. And this is it for Big Bird. He falls to Balthazar, and it's a victory for the Empire. Super, super close there at the end of the day. And ultimately, I think what cost Malverde is just that miss targeting the charge at the very end. Like, if he had used those Marauder Horsemen to charge the Great Swords and Spearmen instead, they would have immediately terrified away, and that might have prevented the Shaggoth from routing. Not 100%, but at the very least, he could have chased those units off with his horsemen, right, and use Big Bird, stay near them, try and continue to chase them off, and then, you know, you still have them around in the late game. Who knows? Balthazar still keeping that extra Overcast final transmutation in his back pocket. You know, when all of those horsemen do blob up around him, they're still going to get absolutely nuked, right? But it's hard to say. I mean, it's anyone's chance there at the end of the game, and if Balthazar got bad RNG, then he could have definitely lost that engagement, but just so happened that he was able to win. So a big thanks to Malverde. He's actually one that posted that. Golden Eagle as well. Super well played to both of them. Wonderful metal duel classic. So yeah, love to see that. Hopefully you guys did as well. If you enjoy this type of content, be sure to like, subscribe, give it a share to a friend, subscribe and click that bell, and we'll see you next time.